Is cleaning cards okay? Or should it get you banished from the hobby forever? We'll tell you what we think and break it down right now on Cards on the Table. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome back to another episode of Cards on the Table, our fast-paced talk show where we cover a variety of timely topics across the world of sports cards. We have some great ones today, and joining me for today's conversation, we've got the great Mr. Doug over here.
Thank you. That's the nicest introduction you've ever given me. I appreciate it.
It might be actually, and the great Mr. Hammer over here.
Great to see you. I hope you had a great vacation.
Thank you, Hammer. I'm happy to be back, and good job to you guys carrying the show last week when I was out, because I know God knows Teapot didn't do anything in this seat to help you out.
Got it.
So you guys had to carry it. You guys had to carry it, and you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
All right, let's dive in though, because there has been some big news in the hobby in recent days around cleaning of cards. And is it okay to clean a card? Is it okay if you're going to send a card in for grading? Are you allowed to spray stuff on it? Can you get in there and really be wiping this thing down? Where do you draw the line? Like what is the difference between cleaning and actually altering a card, right? That's a big question, and it's been thrust into the news because there was a massive sale of the Justin Herbert Black Finite 1/1 rookie card. $1.1 million. The card was BGS 9, but it appears, according to some before and after photos, that there was a fingerprint smudge removed from the card. So there was perhaps a little bit of cleaning going on there. We know that was the case. The service claims to have cleaned the card. Doug, does this matter? Should people be outraged, or is this an expected thing?
I don't even know where to begin on this topic, really. So had he just shown that, hey, there was a fingerprint smudge, I wiped it off, good to go, no one says a word. But then he says that a company was involved, which is kind of against, if this was BGS, but I know PSA doesn't allow that. If you were to tell them that you sent this to a company to prepare it for grading, they don't accept that. But I think it's really weird with cards in general. With fine art, it's okay to restore fine art. With comic books, it's okay to get your comic books pressed before you send them to grading. But there's some weird rules when it comes to sports cards on how you're allowed to handle those. So for me personally, I'm definitely wiping my card down. I think you're foolish if you don't at least wipe the card down with a microfiber. But how much further than that can you go before you're altering a card? I mean, you don't want to trim it, obviously. And when it comes to use of different chemicals, that's probably, where it gets a little, a gray area. If you're using something just to wipe the surface, to get residue off of it, fingerprints off of it, I'm personally cool with that. But when you're starting to try to use like compounds to repair scratches or something along those lines, that's where I won't get involved personally. Then I think you are legitimately altering that card.
Interesting. Okay. Is that the line, Hammer? Is Doug right on the line, or what do you think about this?
So I think cleaning can turn into altering when you start adding something onto a card, and maybe I'm speaking more on a vintage background, but if you're adding any color or adding any bleach, or I know specific to vintage, sometimes people will try to add pieces of paper that may be missing or chipped. So that's, to me, when you start getting into that altering aspect, when you start adding things and not necessarily cleaning the card with just maybe a cloth and some
You're
water,
just a hot breath
which
guy,
has
right?
been the traditional way, cloth and water since I could remember. And you mentioned this before. I think we're talking about this topic because it comes down to intent. What's the intent behind you cleaning, questionably cleaning, or altering the card? If you're somebody that just likes to display cards and you just want to have that color really pop on your card, then I totally get it. But if you're, trying to questionably clean or alter these cards without disclosing it to, a potential buyer, I think that's when it becomes a problem, because that's when people feel like they might have been bamboozled or taken advantage of in some way. Where if they just told the person straight up, then, and I know in this case with the Herbert it may be a little bit different because this was a grading process involved. But yeah, I think once you start adding stuff to a card, you start getting involved with some of the chemicals, I think that's when you're not really cleaning a card anymore, and it can be risky waters, especially if you're trying to sell it to somebody who has no idea that you've been maybe tampering with it in some fashion.
Unfortunately, due to the amount of money that's involved in grading cards, that it kind of invites that element, right? There's going to be people that are very tempted if they've got a very high-end card that for some reason isn't going to make the mark, and it could be thousands of dollars difference between one step too far in the cleaning process. There's going to be people that are going to do that. They're going to be tempted to take that route.
Oh, and it absolutely happens, and it absolutely works. So I was out in California this summer. There's a guy out there named the Slab Doctor. He goes to a lot of the major card shows in California, and he sets his booth up, and all he does is clean cards for grading. And he has chemicals, sprays, magnifying glasses. He's going at your cards. I had a guy out there in California tell me that he submitted a card for grading, or he actually had bought a card that was a graded card that had a relatively low grade. He cracked it out of the PSA slab. He took it to the Slab Doctor. Or I don't know if it was the Slab Doctor. He took to somebody who then cleaned the card using chemicals and whatever, resubmitted it to PSA. It went up a grade.
Yeah.
And it was a really expensive card. He made, I think he said like 20 grand by going up a grade. That's the challenge. I think personally, I kind of going to one thing you said, Hammer, there's a difference between adding and taking away.
Yep.
In my opinion, I think if you're cleaning a card, I don't even have a problem as much with a little bit of spray of some type of chemical, because if you're taking stuff that was there that wasn't intended to be there, if you're taking away fingerprints and dirt and grime and stuff that got on it during the packaging process, or you're taking away, that's okay. The second you start adding, you start filling in scratches or that becomes a problem. But even that's a gray area, because you could say, well, why don't I just take away a little nick in the corner? So, which obviously you can't do that. That's trimming's definitely beyond the line. So it's a tough question. I don't know. I do agree, Doug, that the card world is just different on this, different than the fine art world. But you know what? It is what it is. I would love to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments below. And we're moving on to topic number 2. This one, another big news event that's been going on in the hobby, Topps Chrome, not including the super short print rookies in the latest 2022 release of Topps Chrome Baseball. Now, this started to get discovered as people were opening up all kinds of boxes. People were watching breaks, and they were looking on eBay. And after a few days, people were like, this is so strange. We can't find a single break, even though many cases of this have been opened, where any one of these super short print rookies have been pulled, nor are there any on eBay. So then people started to wonder, like, do these exist? And then all of a sudden, Topps started to wonder, did something happen? And then they figured out something did happen, that their printer did not insert the cards properly into the super short prints, didn't make it into the product at all. So Topps Chrome does not have the super short prints. And this is a big financial problem, because people were buying these boxes in anticipation that they had a shot at hitting one of these really big cards. Now, Topps, their plan to make up for it is to issue everybody who bought a box of 2022 Topps Chrome a silver pack, a bonus pack that has the chance of the super short prints. But there's some catches there. It's only being issued if you bought the cards off Topps.com or somebody who Topps sold the cards to. So if you bought them on the secondary market and the box had been flipped around, you're not getting one of those silver packs. The person who originally bought that box might be getting that silver pack that should have gone to you. Hammer, you open up a lot of baseball product. You're a big Topps collector. What do you make of all of this?
And just to add to your story, now you can't even go onto Topps' website. They took down the hobby boxes for people who maybe wanted to now buy through Topps.com to get that. So this is just an absolute debacle, if you ask me. And the sad thing is, we just went through this last year. Jarred Kelenic's SP was showing up on the checklist for Topps Chrome's release last year. People opened up the product. It was nowhere to be found. So it's just extremely concerning to me that, I understand there's mistakes happen, but this is the second year in a row, and this is arguably the biggest chases within the product. To me, it's unacceptable to be able to put a product for sale and not know that the cards that are needed to be in there aren't. Mm-hmm. And it just has me thinking about where this innovation is going between card companies and the manufacturers, because it's just becoming more and more concerning to me how these things sort of happen, and there's not people single, double, triple, quadruple checking to make sure that, hey, these 5 big rookies are getting added into this checklist, so we need to make sure that these cards are in there. I mean, millions, so much money is being swayed one way to another from a simple mistake. I don't know the inner workings of the relationship between the two, but I'm hoping that, the higher ups can look around and go, this just isn't good enough. We need to step it up, because I don't know any other industry where you can do stuff like this and it just gets swept under the rug. It looks bad for Topps, it looks bad for Fanatics, but at worst, it looks bad for the collectors, and it feels bad for the collectors, and that's who always generally, gets the brunt end of these sorts of things. So it's disappointing, but I hope that, the right people, the people that have bought, hobby boxes through Topps, can somehow get their hands on these silver pack, because I really don't know how they're going to be able to maneuver this.
Yep. What was your reaction to all this, Doug?
It's so disappointing. I mean, this is the flagship release for Topps Baseball. This is the most important product.
Preach
it's the
it.
5 most important cards. The product was already severely delayed. It was very late. What happened while they were delaying the product? Not checking in and see what cards were in the pack, apparently. I think it's super disappointing. I'll give them some credit for addressing it, and fairly quickly, because I'm not sure a ton of other companies may have addressed it publicly and in a timely fashion. The solution isn't awesome, but I don't know what else they could do here. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of the people who spent money on Topps Chrome are going to be the ones getting the silver packs. It's going to be hobby shops getting them, and maybe they can try to figure out who bought from them and try to distribute it, but that's going to be a mess. It's going to be a lot of breakers that have Topps Direct accounts or have bought from distributors with Topps Direct accounts. How do they try to get those back to the people who bought into their breaks? I mean, I know people who've spent thousands of dollars joining these breaks, chasing these rookies. How are they going to be the ones that get access to these silver packs? It's going to be the breakers are going to get them. And then what are they going to do? Just run more breaks with silver packs? None of this is great. None of this is great for sure. But I don't really know how you fix it from this point. You address it, you try to do better going forward, but the overall just optics of it, like I said, the product was already late. It's the 5 most important cards. How is this what you miss? Maybe an insert or one guy or something like that, but this is kind of a big failure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's all those things. The one thing I will say is I found it refreshing that Topps, and maybe this is due to Fanatics leadership now, that they came out and they were very upfront about it. They said, yeah, big issue here. This was a big mess up. Here's what we're going to do to try to make it right. Now, it's not a perfect solution. For all the reasons you said, there is no perfect solution. And it doesn't make up for the fact that this mistake should have never been made in the first place. Absolutely not. But at least they communicated well about it. At least they took responsibility for it. At least they said, we're going to make this right in the best way we know how. So that I respect, that I appreciate, because you don't always see that. Even that level you don't always see from the card manufacturers.
And before Fanatics took over, we might, if they didn't take over, we might not even have heard anything. So to your point, it's still great to see that they got out ahead of it, but we need changes.
It can't happen again.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is one of the most expensive Topps Chrome hobby releases on release day, right?
Well, look at those hobby box prices now. How
Exactly. So what happened?
This stuff has been announced.
So do we get those in update now? Does Topps update make up for it by stacking all those rookies in those boxes?
That's definitely a possibility. I think they added Kalinick's base into Topps Chrome update, so they could very well do something. But man, not a great look.
Yeah.
All right, well, better news ahead. We got some great additional topics to discuss, but first, a quick word from our sponsor.
DraftKings has launched a first-of-its-kind digital trading card fantasy game, DraftKings Rainmakers. DraftKings, a leader in daily fantasy, is bringing their digital gaming expertise to the world of NFTs. DraftKings has recently launched Rainmakers, allowing customers to buy and sell exclusive player card NFTs. Collect your favorite athletes' digital player cards, and then use those cards to create a daily fantasy lineup. Your lineup then racks up points just like any other daily fantasy contest. And if you land near the top of the leaderboard, you could win cold hard cash. Head over to DraftKings now and sign up using code SCI. Navigate to the marketplace where you can join a queue to purchase a player pack. Each pack has different player cards. Enter your players into a Rainmakers lineup and watch the action unfold as your team scores points.
So that looks pretty cool. Doug and Hammer, I know you guys have been playing around with DraftKings Rainmakers. What's this like?
Yeah, so I had been playing around with the platform about a month before we partnered with DraftKings. I was already kind of invested in it, and it's a lot of fun. So if you play daily fantasy, it's sort of the same concept of daily fantasy, only you're not limited to like a salary budget. Essentially the way it works is you're buying these packs of cards, and those are the cards that you can use in your lineup. You have to own the cards, or you can go to a marketplace and buy singles. I mean, think of it as buying a box of Prism or Select Football and building a fantasy football lineup out of just the cards you pulled out of the packs. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's a bit addicting for me. It's just kind of right up my alley. This is something I'll continue to play.
Interesting. You like it too?
Oh yeah, I love the gamification aspect. It almost reminds me of Madden Ultimate Team that I used to play in college, where I used to be able to try to put together these lineups. Except now, you can get into contests where if your players perform well, you can get cash prizes. And unlike you, I did go the singles route. I sort of, used my sports card savviness to kind of see where there was value in the market there. I love the aspect of being able to open packs as well as the different rarities. The different rarities can get you into higher pool prizes for particular contests. So, not to mention the transactions are really smooth if you're trying to sell cards or even just trying to buy them. So that aspect of it is really, really fun. And to your point, it's week 2 and I'm already pretty hooked on it. Yeah. So hopefully we can get some winners this week.
Okay. All right. DraftKings Rainmakers. I'm going to give it a shot. All right. We got another big topic right now. By the way, mailbag time. Keep your suggestions coming for topics. Let us know in the comments what you want us to discuss next week, including this. Hammer, MVP, Judge, Ohtani, where are you going? And also a little extra little question there. Whose cards would you rather own?
Well, I'm going to start just with the MVP talk, and I'm firmly in the Aaron Judge camp here. I mean, this guy's having the greatest single season performance out of any hitter that I've seen. I mean, he's pretty much first in every AL statistical hitting category, and he has a really good chance at winning the Triple Crown. And a big portion of this, what matters to me, and is almost sort of the deciding factor, is he's doing it in a winning effort. Yeah. They are first in the division. It looks like they're going to make the playoffs, and I think it would be okay to argue that without Aaron Judge, Yankees would know where to be found. You know where they would be found? Where the Angels are, not in the playoffs. So to me, Ohtani, I understand the hype around him and, the fact that he's doing what nobody else has done before, but he just won this award last year. So if we want to go by, he's doing things that nobody's ever done. Okay, so should Tom Brady get the MVP award every year in the NFL because he's playing at a level and age that nobody's played at before? So that, he's doing stuff that nobody's done before. That argument doesn't sit well with me for this guy to win his second MVP award while Aaron Judge is doing what he's doing. So I'm going to leave this with, I don't think Judge is going to be the only two-way player that we see. So I look forward. Ohtani. I look forward to the day that MLB decides, we're going to make the best two-way player award.
Oh, jeez.
So then we can sort of stop this. He's got this ERA and he's hitting this. Well, Judge is literally doing something he hasn't done before. And for those saying, he plays in Yankee Stadium, he has 30 home runs at home and 30 on the road. So he's doing it wherever.
You agree? Disagree?
Yeah, I agree. I'm an Ohtani guy, and I do think the fact that he just won an MVP does hurt him in this conversation. But for what Judge is doing right now, he's going to set, the Yankee record for home runs, the American League record for home runs. Tied with Babe Ruth currently, going to pass Maris soon. This is non-steroid era, hopefully. It's incredibly impressive, and the fact that they're winning. And you asked a bonus question: how do you, whose cards do you want? It got me to thinking, what does it take for Ohtani? Ohtani's not on a winning team. They're not going to win the World Series. So are these individual awards more important for Ohtani? Does it affect his card prices more to get MVPs than someone like Judge, who's going to be chasing a World Series? So who needs it more? Who actually needs the MVP more for their card prices? That's what I'm thinking about.
What was Judge's ERA this season?
I don't know. You should probably look at the opposing
0.00.
pitchers.
How many strikeouts did Judge throw this year?
Like I said, that's
it's hard.
It's all in a losing effort.
Are you
claiming a losing effort?
Yes.
You're claiming Ohtani?
Here's why the answer's got to be Ohtani. Because when I go to Google to look up the fact that Ohtani's batting .268, 34 home runs, 25 games pitched, 2.43 ERA, 13 wins on a horrible team. When I look up those statistics, here's the funny thing. I have to go to multiple websites because if you Google right now, you Google Ohtani's name, Google comes up with their little statistics box. It has him listed as a pitcher, and it has his pitcher statistics displayed. No hitting statistics. I then go to baseballreference.com. Baseballreference.com has him listed as a hitter and has all of his hitting statistics and doesn't have his pitching statistics. Now, they're there if you go lower on the page, but these websites are not designed for a player who both pitches and hits because nobody else in the entire world does it, and nobody has done it successfully since Babe Ruth. So to me, like, it's just like there's been a lot of guys who have hit home runs. There's been a lot of guys who have hit big home. I know he's having a good year. We've seen triple crowns done recently. We've seen years with home runs that have gone way beyond 60, 61 done recently. Yeah, maybe they're shooting up a little bit. I don't know, but
bring it back.
All right. Next
So
time.
look, this is what I want to leave you with. The World Series MVP award. Does it go to the winner or to the losing team?
I tell you what, if Ohtani was in the World Series,
If
I'd
it's a
just give him
Super
the
Bowl
award.
MVP.
Give Ohtani
If
the
it's a
award.
Super-
I don't care. Give
My
him the
point
award. First
being,
game, give him the award.
Generally, the MVP award should go to winners.
I just think when you're seeing something that you haven't seen in 80 or 90 years, that's incredible. And with Judge,
And he was awarded last year because of that. Here's your MVP award. You were on, a last place team, second to last place team. Here you go. So to his point, I think
Yankees,
it's more
New York
if
bias
this was,
right
if this
here.
was last
This
year.
is Yankees
How much of
bias
that
to
is
the
him being
extreme
held
degree.
back by Mike Trout, though?
Well, I will say in terms of cards, and I'll leave it at this. Ohtani may not be on the Angels after next year, so from
True.
a card perspective, it could be a sneaky play to maybe stash some of his cards because if he goes to a Dodgers or a Yankees, then everything that you're saying is completely true about you can't find him on Baseball Reference. We don't know what position he is, the whole nine.
All right, who's right? Let us know in the comments. We got to get to the next topic. We're way over time. NFL storylines. We're a couple weeks into the new NFL season. There's been some incredible stories already so far. You got Herbert with his ribs banged up. You got Burrow, who looks lost with his offensive line out there. You got Tua, who's making a mockery of everyone who doubted him. You got Jalen Hurts doing the same. What is your early takeaways, and what does it mean from a card perspective, Doug?
My early takeaway is that during football season, I'm so scared to invest in football. Every single play, every single snap, something could happen that completely changes the future of an individual player. We've seen it already with Trey Lance as a perfect example. I'm deathly afraid of investing in football right in the middle of the season. That's more of a preseason or build-up thing for me. What I think is really interesting is how much fluctuation we're seeing on game-to-game performances for the guys that are under the spotlight the most, the quarterbacks. Burrow gets sacked 11 times. He is free-falling. Jalen Hurts looks great. Tua had a great fourth quarter in one game, and those guys are skyrocketing. It's amazing how just a few plays here and there can completely alter the landscape of somebody's cards. So in that perspective, I'm going back to wax, like I always do. I'm so afraid of individual players, I go back to wax. I'm looking at 2020 for having great quarterbacks now with Herbert, with Burrow, with Tua, with Jalen Hurts. And then I'm shying away from things like 2019 where there's basically Kyler Murray and a bunch of wide receivers. Like all those guys haven't really panned out. 2021 is up in the air right now. Trevor Lawrence might be the best one of the group, but he's not exactly impressive. Mac Jones is he's Mac Jones. And then you've got Zach Wilson, Trey Lance not really playing right now. So it's scary from a skill position quarterback perspective in season for me. I'm kind of staying away from it, to be honest.
Yeah, and the sealed wax advice is always great advice. I mean, because it gives you the mutual fund of all those players. If one's up and one's down, you're still doing well.
I'll tell you the scariest thing real quick is I've just pulled out of a box of Select Trevor Lawrence RPA Redemption. And I decided to redeem it, so I'm going to be waiting X amount of months.
Sure.
Every single game, I'm hoping that he doesn't get injured and he doesn't throw 8 interceptions in a game. It is the biggest sweat every week, hoping that he just stays at least on an even keel until I get those redemptions back.
Hammer.
So last week I mentioned that Tua's upcoming 3 games that were the Ravens, the Bills, and the Bengals were probably going to make or break his hobby perception for the rest of the year.
And you scared me away from Tua when you told me that lineup.
Well, obviously after this past weekend, I had Ravens minus 3.5 and was crying the blues in the fourth quarter. But Tua obviously proved a lot of doubters wrong in that big comeback victory. And his graded rookie cards have gone up roughly 30% according to Market Movers over the last 7 days. So looks good so far within that first game, but he does play the Bills this week, and I think that this is going to determine if this was a fluke against the Ravens or if Tua and the Dolphins are here to stay. And last thing I want to say, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, them two look like the best two receivers in football right now. Kupp looks like he picked up right where he left off. Same with Diggs.
Don't sleep on Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Diggs is just disrespecting cornerbacks the first 2 weeks, and you've seen both of those guys have sales volume increases as well as price increases over the past 2 weeks.
So this guy's both an LA Rams homer, which we already knew, as well as now a New York Yankees homer because he bought
Come
some
on,
Aaron
I'm even
Judge
giving
cards
Diggs
in the
credit. He
offseason.
was cooking Jalen Ramsey on that Thursday night.
He's kind of like
opener.
Teapot. He's got all these different teams in every different sport. That way he never loses.
Likes everybody.
Yeah.
Likes everybody.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit like and please hit subscribe. Check out DraftKings and their new feature. That sounds really cool. I like that.
fun.
I like that. And we will see you soon in a couple of days with our next episode. Take care.